I'm going to get started and read all the stuff. I don't think anyone's going to argue about that. All right. This is the Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, March 30th, 2021 at 4 p.m. We are now using Zoom webinar for meetings, which allows for the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. People registering to be an attendee must use their first and last names. Otherwise, they will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can click the raise hand button if they wish to speak. I will call on those who've raised their hands in the order in which they were raised. The YouTube chat will no longer be enabled. All questions should be directed through me. As a preliminary matter, this is Denise Cronow, Chair of the Nantucket Select Board. Finance Committee. I'm reading Dawn's script. I knew that was going to happen one of these days. At least I didn't say this is Dawn Holgate. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. George Harrington.
Aye.
Thank you. Peter McCachern.
Aye.
Peter Schaefer.
Aye.
Joe Grouse.
Here.
Stephen Morey.
Here.
Chris Glowacki.
Here.
Jill Veith.
Here.
Thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Let's see, who do I see first? Brian Turbot.
Present.
Rick Sears.
Also present.
Libby Gibson.
Present.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Finance Committee is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment as previously noted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude, I will ask the Finance Committee if they have any comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. May I have an approval of the agenda, please?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. George? Thank you. Peter McCachern?
Aye.
Peter Schaefer?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Denise, aye. Thank you. Okay. Before we get to public comment, I'm going to just jump to the adoption of meeting minutes for March 18th. Did everyone have a chance to read those minutes? Jill did not. Okay, so we will have to wait. Okay. And then now I will open it for public comment.
Madam Chair, I don't see an option to push a button to raise my hand, but I would like to raise my hand.
Okay, Bruce, then you are welcome to make a comment.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank the committee for the opportunity I had to discuss Article 75 with you last week and for the proposed motion. It's part of the culmination of a lot of hard work by a lot of people. As to the deletion of 2 items, I wanted to briefly mention item K, nip bottles. I would ask that you consider a motion to compromise that would, I believe, help accomplish several positive things toward our bylaws intent to protect the aquifer, drinking water, reduce litter, and help eventually reduce our cost of transporting non-recyclable plastics off island, while not harming vendors' ability to continue marketing some of them. I'll explain. Item K is worded plastic and glass nip bottles with capacities of 200 milliliters. I'm suggesting we focus on the size of the container. We know nips are one of the most common items we find in the litter that Clean Team, area associations, local residents, and I pick out of the bushes and from the ground each week. Over the weekend, I reviewed my last 3 litter sorts for the most prevalent size of bottles that I picked up. My periodic sorts are separate from what the Clean Team picks up because my walks are just in Mattocket, almost daily. Some of those sorts had hundreds of containers. Most of them were small, 50 milliliters. That's 1.6 ounces or not even 2 tablespoons. And some of them were 70 milliliters, about 2.3 ounces. These are the size of the typical containers that we used to see on airplane carts. 100 milliliters is about 3 ounces. All of these are non-recyclable, non-compostable containers that contribute to pollution of the island's landscape, and they cost the town money to dispose of. Other jurisdictions have dealt with these items. Falmouth town meeting voters have recently banned them, and the state AG approved it as being legal. Our 2 state reps are in the midst of trying to impose restrictions on nips to help with the litter issues on the Cape and Islands. Regarding whether the vendors are aware of the article, over the weekend, I reviewed my notes to confirm that I had visited the stores to drop off copies of the article to the managers on duty and offered to discuss it, and did discuss it, in December of 2019 and February of 2020. So the article's been out there since late 2019 when it was submitted. That's longer than most articles are around before an ATM, and it's because in 2020, the article was held over to 2021. The town moderator often reminds that it's the voters' responsibility to become informed about the articles. But in reality, the town's work group has conducted forums, held public hearings, met with stakeholders about the single-use plastic bylaw, and we continue to do so. Of course, during the pandemic, some outreach was reduced, but the town's begun to recontact businesses to remind them of the bylaw and the need to try to comply. So in lieu of removing the item, which we would prefer not to be done, and in the absence of reinstating it, perhaps the FinCom might consider a sort of a compromise to retain the intent of Article 75's item, where the FinCom could, in their motion, reduce the size of the container from 200 milliliters to 100 milliliters. That would help accomplish much of what we're working toward, which main objective is to protect and preserve the health, safety, and welfare of our community resources. So I'm requesting that one of the members offer such a favorable motion that it would be seconded and voted upon favorably. Thank you for your consideration and time. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, Bruce. Do I have Peter Schaefer?
Yeah, Bruce, when I'm looking online and I'm looking up the nip, and it says that the average, most nips are 50 milliliters. So I don't see what you're going to eliminate by doing it at 100. it would seem to include almost all nips that are out there.
Bruce, you're welcome to comment.
Peter, that's a good comment, and it kind of confirms the sort data that I told you about just a moment ago, where most of the sort I had was 50 milliliters to 70 milliliters. So perhaps if you reduced it to 70 milliliters, it would accomplish the same intent. The 100 milliliter was just something that's been used around the country in dealing with these, as Falmouth did, but 70 works fine.
Do you actually pick up nibs that are larger than 50 milliliters or 70 milliliters?
Yes, I do. Some of them are quite large. It depends who the manufacturer is and what they're selling. Some of my favorite bourbon, Maker's Mark, comes in a rather large nip bottle. And some of them, you know, I pick up pint bottles too. But yes, some of them are larger.
Thank you.
Stephen?
Not trying to be funny here, but what makes a nip a nip? Like if they come in rather large nip bottles, is that not just a bottle? Where is the line?
That's a good question too. There's just a definition that people are using about what a nip bottle is, and I have a sense that it goes back to the days when you'd open the bottle and take a nip. Most of us, as old as I am, I'm 74, we used to carry around little flasks and periodically at a cold football game or something, open it up and take a nip. So I have a sense that's where the term comes from, but Stephen, I'm not exactly sure, but.
Yeah, I'm on a meeting. What's up?
I'm sorry. And if you go into the liquor stores and ask for the nips, they'll point to these 50 and 70 milliliter bottles. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
George?
This may be somewhat off the track, but you know, we're talking about a supply problem on one side of the equation, in which the desire is to rid the town of more plastic. And I don't think that we're looking, I don't think we've yet looked well enough at the demand side, because I think a little research will serve to convince everyone that the amount of liquor that will be bought, or perhaps even the number of bottles, no matter what the choice might be, is likely not to change. So you're trying to, you're liable to, in a case like that, promote a greater volume of alcohol amongst a population that you might not wish to have that much alcohol. And I think before we were to go into this end of the process, that we really should have some more information about how something like this has been shown to work other places. I would love to see so much of the junk on Nantucket go away. All of us would, but the particulars of this subject that we're focused on, I think will have a knock-on effect that we will not be happy about. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Stephen?
Through you, Madam Chair. George, can you expound on the vagaries of what you just said? What are the knock-on effects? Are you suggesting that if we don't sell liquor in small bottles, then people will buy and consume more liquor?
In a kind of a coarse sense, my thought is that, having observed this for quite a while, that when somebody walks into a liquor store and they want to get something in the way of alcohol, they'll buy it. And if a nip is not available, they'll probably go for the next thing, which, you know, I think from more than time to time, we see that sort of behavior. And I don't think that's going to be healthy for, let's just say, underage users or the younger crowd. And I don't think that we know that that's going to be any easier on the junk we find on the side of the road. So again, I just don't think we've engaged in a thorough enough analysis.
George, can I
George?
comment?
Go ahead, Bruce.
Thank you. It's an interesting discussion point. The single-use plastic bylaw is not really intended to alter people's behavior other than to reduce the consumption of single-use plastics. It's why the bylaw is not focused on the individual. It's why it's focused on the distributors and the vendors to have them vend and offer less plastic. Now, as an ancillary benefit, it helps to clean up our bike paths and sides of the roads where these things are discarded, particularly, as I mentioned last time, in the areas, for example, between Nantucket Auto Body and the high school, by Lover's Lane, the state forest. And sure, people can find ways to circumvent any bylaw. We find plastic balloons on the island and things of that nature, but the intent is to have people learn to maintain the spirit of what we're trying to do in cleaning up our environment and protecting the aquifer. George, I'm not sure we can ever change people's behavior in terms of alcoholic consumption and things of that nature, but I think this is a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other comments from the Finance Committee? Joe?
Just a quick question, just to make sure I'm a little confused. Is Bruce looking for a modification to ban nip bottles, small plastic nip bottles of 70 milliliters and less, or 100 milliliters and less? He wants to modify the article so that we're banning just the tiniest or the most commonly used. Is that?
Well, first we would
we're
have
looking
to,
for?
first we'd have to, one of the 4 people who voted in favor of the article would have to be willing to reopen the article. And then in the reopening of the article, we would discuss if there was a potential modification. That's the sequence.
Right, so the modification is dropping the size to 70 or 100 milliliters and banning anything from that size down.
Yes.
Correct. That would be the
Okay.
proposed modification if
Okay.
we were to reopen it. We
Okay,
haven't gotten to the reopening part yet.
Yes, and as was mentioned, those are the most common sizes that we've been picking up.
Joe?
so as a practical matter, which of us, because I don't quite remember, which of us voted for the current state of Article 70? Do we know?
I did. There was 3 others. So it wasn't Stephen because he wasn't at the meeting. So
I can't remember, that's my
I
problem.
don't either.
I have it.
thank you, Libby. I don't have it because I didn't.
The people who voted yes, according to my notes, were Joanna, George, Joe, and Denise.
So that leaves myself, Joe, or George to be willing to reopen it. Chris?
I just have a question. Once it was reopened, it's open for any motion. It's not just reopened for the
Correct.
motion as requested.
Correct.
So we could bring forth any motion,
Yes, we could bring forward.
including one to not adopt, right?
Correct, we could.
Thank
Yep.
you.
It becomes as if it was never motioned. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Madam Chair, I'd be willing to make a motion to reopen our vote on Article 70.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. So by roll call, question, Libby, by roll call, it's the entire Finance Committee that's on now, right? Okay. Peter McEachern. So the motion is a discussion on the motion prior to we vote on it. So Peter McEachern?
Joe, you referred to Article 70 twice. Is this an Article 75?
Yes, it is Article
It's
75.
75, thank you. My apologies. I was,
Problem.
okay. So my motion is to reopen discussion on Article 75, the litter bylaw, single-use plastics bylaw.
George, is your second still on Article 75? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, by roll call, Peter McEachern?
I have to recuse myself.
Oh, yes, of course. Okay,
My wife has a boxed water company.
okay, thank you.
You-
The person whose hand is raised we're in the middle of a motion, so we can't take public comment at this moment, and you are just a, what's the word? Lighthouse. You have to have a first and last name to participate in any case. So, for those of you, for the lighthouse who has their hand raised, that's my observation. Okay, Joe.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, I just realized I had to make a list chart. Stephen?
This is the motion to reconsider.
Yes.
Right.
I don't think I can vote on that.
Yes, everybody can vote on, yes, you couldn't make the motion to reopen it, but you can now vote on it because you're here. That's what Libby just said.
All right. Aye.
Okay. Peter Schaefer,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
okay, Chris,
Aye.
and Denise, no. Okay, so that passes. So the motion is now, so the article is now reopened for deliberation. And so no more public comment during this point unless we have questions, in which case we will ask. So Dave Lower, thank you for, you still have to put your name on it versus what I can only see it's you. Anyway, okay.
He does have his name on there, Denise.
Oh, he does?
Yep.
Okay,
At least on my screen, he does.
all right.
Mine too.
If I may just make one comment, if that's okay, Chairman?
Hold on a second, Dave. So Libby, we've reopened the motion. We're in the middle of deliberations of the motion. Do I have to stop deliberations, open for public comment, and close for public comment to do that properly?
Up to you whether or not, well, you've voted already, so it's up to you now to have whatever discussion you'd like, public or committee, as to a new motion.
Okay, so Dave, yes, go ahead.
Okay. One thing, if you could just please take into consideration when investigating this further down the road, in regards to the size of the plastic bottles and the potential ban of certain sizes. The 50 milliliter bottle are almost always plastic. And if those were taken away from retailers, to agree with George that the consumer would quite often, almost always, trade up in size, whether that be to a 100 milliliter, 200 milliliter, 375, or larger. Unfortunately, with almost all liquor manufacturers, when the size is beyond a 50 milliliter nip, it goes from plastic to glass. So now there is the potential of having more glass around. I mean, people who litter and throw the things out the window are gonna probably continue to do so. Plastic doesn't break, glass does. And having broken glass on our bike paths, streets, beaches, etc., is something to consider when thinking about this further. It also promotes irresponsible consumption, which is bad policy. No one here on Nantucket wants any of that. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Stephen?
Just a counterpoint to that, if people would always trade up to the larger size, then liquor distributors wouldn't be interested in preserving the smaller size, and neither would liquor stores. I mean, you make more money selling the larger bottle. So if that were always true, there wouldn't be anything to discuss here.
I don't know the margins on the small bottles, Stephen, compared to the large bottles, because it's margin, it's not price per bottle. So maybe you make a lot more margin on the smaller bottles. I would imagine that actually is true. So just as a counterpoint to your counterpoint, Chris?
Well, I'll add to that and then ask another question. I think that would assume there is no competition, and that if the consumer choices for a smaller bottle and is a competitive brand available in the smaller bottle, I would argue that the free market, in fact, is what has made the small bottles available. So I don't think your point holds either, Stephen. My question goes to the cellulose acetate cigarette filters, which I believe where we're headed are still probably headed for being included in the ban. Do we know what percentage of current commercially available filtered cigarettes available on the island have cellulose acetate filters?
This is Bruce.
Go ahead, Bruce.
My research shows that it's just over 50% and diminishing. As I mentioned last time, Europe is about to ban all menthol cigarettes, and almost all of them are plastic acetate. I'd like to just mention, and by the way, those are the #1 most littered item on our island, and they do contain toxic nicotine. But anyway.
So just to be clear,
that the intent, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just to be clear, the motion that we're talking about would ban half of the filtered cigarettes currently available on Nantucket.
No, it would ban the plastic acetate filters. There are other filters that are available, and the manufacturers are quite prepared to adjust, as we see in other jurisdictions that have done this. I wanted to make a point that the single-use plastic bylaw is intended to try to reduce the amount of single-use plastic material that cost us a lot of money to ship off the island.
Bruce, I'm going to interrupt you. I really would like you to stick to new information. We spent a lot of time on this last week. I mean, we were a good hour, I think, in discussion on this article. So I don't think we really need to revisit any topics that have come up a couple of times before. And I would really prefer that we stick to new information in this discussion, because we do have other articles we have to get to. So,
yes,
Jill?
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Bruce.
I was just addressing the comments that were made about glass and other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Jill?
Well, I do have one question, which maybe you can answer for us, Madam Chair. I thought I heard the other day that it bans glass as well.
No, this is single-use plastic.
Jill is correct. The language does say plastic and glass. So perhaps the motion could just simply address plastic containers of 70 milliliters or less, and that would address that. Thank you, Jill. That's a good point.
Thank you, Jill. That is a good point. Okay.
So I guess I don't know what the alternative is in terms of the product. I'm not a distributor. Dave Lower is, maybe somebody else from the public can tell us, is there an alternative that is, I guess, biodegradable?
At that size. So I guess.
At that size.
Yeah, so right now.
Is there an aluminum size? I don't know.
I think, if I may, Madam Chair, I did ask that question last meeting on this, and the answer was that there are theoretical concepts that would replace it, but not commercially available in the marketplace.
Thank you, Chris.
I think also, sorry.
Go ahead, Jill.
Sorry, Denise.
That's all right.
My larger point about this article is we've gotten hung up just on nip bottles. And there are a lot of other products in here in this article that I think we could probably spend days and days discussing about what are the alternatives and how does it impact business. And I'm just being cautious. You know, the law of unintended consequences makes me nervous. I don't feel like we have all the information we need to, you know, give a motion to adopt or even amend further.
Thank you, Jill. Stephen?
I think Bruce made a good point when he told us how many months and years this article has been out in some form for public consumption and discussion. And I think it's notable the absence of local business owners here. You clamoring for us to shoot this down. We see that often in articles where business interests are threatened, and I don't see that here.
Madam Chair, if I may, that's a good point.
Bruce, wait.
Businesses-
Bruce,
all-
Bruce, I'm going to
Yes.
mute you in a minute. Chris Kowalski has his hand up. Let me ask the FinCom folks first, and then I'll come back to you. I promise. So, Chris?
Yeah, just Stephen, I don't know if he had the opportunity to watch the meeting from last, but since he wasn't in the meeting, I'll just say, we did have some discussion of that and some speculation on FinCom members that, given that this is an odd year and that, the cycle has been off and we're not following the usual pattern we follow of public comment, that maybe people aren't aware who otherwise would be in a usual year, and that this might be better pushed off a year from now into a regular cycle where we get the typical full voices at the table that we would expect. But I'm not trying to make up your mind, just give you the benefit of that conversation.
I think we've seen more public comment this year than any year prior. I think Zoom, if anything, has made it more possible for people to follow our meetings and to show up and have their voice heard.
Okay. Bruce, you were saying something? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to remind that we've had stakeholder outreach for going on almost 2 years. We've met with Stop and Shop. We've met with Cumbies executives from off island. We've met with Cisco. We've met with US Foods. These are the targets of this bylaw. They have all pledged cooperation and are cooperating. A walk through Stop and Shop will show that the plastic plates have been replaced, that the water containers have been replaced, the plastic K-cup type items have been replaced. These vendors want to cooperate with us, and they want us to help them manage their inventory. It helps them to be able to stock their warehouses on the Cape and bring these items over. The intent here is not to hurt the individual. And sure, as someone mentioned, people can go online and buy things and circumvent our bylaws. But the spirit of the bylaw and the will to protect the environment and our groundwater and our aquifer, I think, are more in keeping with the state's constitution, that legislatures should focus on the health, safety, and welfare of their communities and not necessarily be advocates for entrepreneurial endeavors. We don't want to hurt our entrepreneurs, but we're seeing after a year or so already that they're cooperating and they're eager to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Jill?
I just want to point out that, Stop and Shop doesn't sell alcohol.
Joe?
I offered the motion to open this discussion because I thought Bruce made a compelling statement. I thought the letter that you shared with us via email earlier today, which was pretty much the same statement, was thoughtful. And I think that, as Bruce has said, a lot of people have done a lot of work on this. I think when we voted the other day, my feeling was, let's drop, I think it was K and L, the plastic and glass nips and the water boxes, or the lined water boxes.
Correct.
And after reading, listening to Bruce's comments, I said, well, gee, you can't plan for everything. You can't anticipate every outcome, but maybe reducing some litter here is the right step. So I thought it was worth reconsidering, and I don't know what people's feeling is, but modifying the size down to 70 milliliters or less to be banned, I think might be a step that would be an acceptable step to me.
And I'm not
wait,
looking
Bruce,
to
Bruce,
reinstate
Bruce,
item K, the box water.
Bruce, honestly, please, just, I'm sorry you can't raise your hand because I would, but you need me to call on you and it's not your turn. Thank you. Orla, you have your hand raised?
Hi, Denise. I just wanted we were looking at the article and primarily the one that's going to affect my business specifically. And I just wanted to point it out. It's going to be a really hard year so we buy a lot of craft brewer beer, and it's primarily all comes with those plastic holders on the top of the 4 and 6 cans. We've been doing business with small brewers all up and down, all over the United States, actually, and nobody ships anything from small brewers that doesn't have those plastic containers on the holders on the top. And this just seems like a really hard year to impose something like that on a lot of small businesses here on Nantucket and out in the greater world. I just would like that particular part of the article, if we could have more discussion about that maybe at some other time.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Libby. Thank you.
that's already in effect.
The holders on top?
That went in effect last year.
Oh, well, our distributors are still sending us them.
That's,
Bruce wants names.
Thanks, Libby.
Jill?
I thought it's because it changed from 6 to 4 in this article. Does that seem right?
No, it just says flexible can and bottle yolks.
I think that was in the Towns article a year ago. I think it was the Towns article that expanded it a year ago.
why don't you talk about keep talking, I'm gonna look it up.
I think is changing.
It is. It's 125A-2 and it's B, flexible can and bottle yolks. Dave, lower, you raised your hand, please.
Hi, yes. Yeah, because I thought that the original law that was passed was, the clear 6-pack flexible ones that, that we've all grown up with, and that there was a proposal to be amended that it would now include not just 6-packs, but a lot of packages are available in 4-packs now, and also the rigid hard plastic snap-on packages as well. Unless that had changed in the amendment, I'm not sure.
Madam Chair?
Thank you, Dave. Hold on a second, Bruce. Okay, no other comments from FinCom. Go ahead, Bruce.
I just want to try to clear something up. Article 75 only deals with 6 items, and we could dispense with the boxed water containers. I'm not seeking to pursue that. The items in this article are the flushable wipes that contain plastic fibers and stuff like that that are clogging our sewer system. Plastic stick earbuds that foul the sewage equipment. The cellulose acetate type tobacco filters that Chris mentioned, clamshell containers and similar types of non-recyclable takeout food containers. And I'm asking you to consider plastic nip bottles with capacities up to, as I understand it, 70 milliliters seems to be an acceptable and reasonable number. The other items mentioned are already part of the bylaw, and they're not part of Article 75.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion, a proposed motion from anyone? Peter Schaefer, do you have a question or a motion?
Motion to not adopt.
I
Second.
second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. May I have a discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair, could I just ask clarification, please? Motion to not adopt any of it?
Yes.
Got it.
I think it's just, there's too much unanswered, and I think that the infringement on retail sales in a year like this could be a problem. Although it's not going to really affect it in a great way. But we did say, you know, the nip bottles alone were 8 to 30% of a liquor store's business. That's a big number. And the margins, you're right, the margins I'm sure are higher on the nips than they are on the rest of liquor. So I just think it needs to be rethought.
Thank you, Peter. Stephen?
Did that 8 to 30% number come from Google, or did it come from some local liquor store?
Came from Google.
Okay, so I think we can probably.
There was many
If-
analysis. I put them together and I averaged it. That's where I got the 8 to 30.
If local liquor stores were going to lose 30% of their income, they would be at this meeting. They would be at every meeting until they knew that this was going to be shot down.
Jill?
Yeah, Stephen, just so you know, because I wanted to get a better feel for that, and I did speak to a liquor store owner today, and she wasn't able to get on because she has to work and didn't have anyone to replace her. It's great that Dave came on. Orla could give her perspective from, I don't know who owns Hatches anymore. I think it was recently sold, but the liquor store owner I spoke to said it was going to devastate her business.
Madam Chair.
Bruce, go ahead.
I want to remind everyone that there are 2 items on this list that I believe are vital to our sewage treatment facility. The flushable wipes and the plastic stick earbuds. These are major problems for our sewer department, and the intent here is to help them reduce their cost of operation and their ability to clean and keep this equipment running. So I would just like to remind you that those 2 items are on there after discussions I've had with David Gray in the sewer department. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Chris, and then I'll come to Peter Schaefer.
So you may recall the last time we were together, I was on board with a motion to adopt just the flushable wipes thing, which I believe would be a great idea. But given the alternative of, without further time and discussion, talking about half of the filtered cigarette brands commercially available and the nip bottles, then I would back the not to adopt. If we were going to limit it just to that one item, if that's what we're saying, then I think that would be a smart thing to do. But I don't think it would be smart to do if it involves including the rest of this bundle.
And Chris, would you be okay with items G and H? So the plastic stick earbuds and the flushable wipes, to Bruce's point about the issues that are facing, that David Gray suggests are problematic, obviously, for the sewer. So would you be okay with A and B? We have to first go through the motion not to adopt and vote on that. But provided.
Yeah, I was more, sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just
That's
more
right.
providing context for my backing of the motion not to adopt in the context of Bruce's comment around the wipes. If
Yep.
we're coming around to those 2 issues, then it might be a different story, but otherwise I'm firmly in the not to adopt camp.
Thank you, Chris. Did Peter Schaefer?
Can I change my motion?
Sure.
No, you assume my knowledge of protocol is outstanding, so I'm going to defer to Libby as to whether it's been seconded. So do we have to vote on it first, Libby, or can Peter withdraw his motion?
He could either withdraw it with consent of the group, or he could amend it with a second, and then you're going to be talking about an amended motion.
Okay, thank you, Libby.
So I'd like to amend my motion to include, to adopt, but only G and H. That's it.
Second.
Do I have a second on his amended motion? Joanna?
Second.
No, I'm not seconding it.
I am seconding it.
Okay, so Chris seconded it. Now it's a discussion on the motion. Joanna?
I don't like that we as a group are deciding what plastic, what things are good and bad. In this kind of, I was in favor of opening, sorry, I'm late to the meeting, by the way. I was in favor of reopening and having a conversation with the hopes that the NIPS bottle would be included, right? Because I agree with Stephen and that I think that number of the local piece is inflated and that they would be here if this was a real crisis kind of situation for them. But I do think, and I said this before, that this is about social change and about setting a standard, and it's less about enforcement. And that's the same, I mean, I think case in point is we have people on the call who don't realize that the 6-pack holders were already part of the last plastics ban, right? So it's not that no one's going out and hunting these people down, right? This is a social change effort to get to change the culture of an island. We have issues with disposing trash. It's not going to go away. We delay it a year, still not going to go away. It's just going to get worse. So by setting a standard, I think that makes a good statement
Thank
and
you,
saves us
Joanna.
money.
Thank you, Joanna. Chris, did you have your hand raised? I'm sorry.
I
So,
think that was just when I was seconding.
okay, thank you, Chris. So my observation to your comment, Joanna, is yes, it is social change, but we're finance committee and we make recommendations to motions. When we're talking about social change, I look at that frankly more as the purview of either the select board's policy making purview or the voters on June 5th.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that finance committee is the lead dog in the social change action. Now, we completely disagree on that, and that's fine. I have no problem with that, but that's my perspective on your comment. Joanna?
But I think that we do it all the time in many other contexts. So we did it with the last plastic ban. We did it with many things that we vote on. So I get it, and we can agree to disagree. I respect that. I have a protocol question. So if we have this vote that we're having now, and if I vote no against it, and that carries, can somebody else then make a motion to adopt?
If the current motion, which is motion to adopt only G and H, with
Right.
only G and H, if that passes, then we're done.
Right.
If it doesn't pass, then it's open for the next motion.
Okay.
Joe? Is that correct, Libby?
And
Thank you.
since I'm not looking at, I don't have the current G and H are flushable wipes and plastic
stick earbuds.
earbuds.
The plastic stick ear swabs.
Oh, swabs. Well, it says buds on the
Q-tips.
We
Q-tips.
used to say
plastic.
buds, but it was very confusing as to what that meant.
Oh,
So
people thought it was the
Yeah.
Apple things. Okay. Swabs.
And okay, and that is reduced from the previous version, which was GH and the acetate filters, which was acetate cigarette filters, and what was the fourth thing?
Yes, so plastic clamshells. The clamshells.
Oh.
So here's,
The
I'll quickly go
takeout
through,
container.
Bruce, I'll go through them quickly. Flushable wipes, plastic stick ear swabs, cellulose acetate, or any type of plastic fiber tobacco product filters, clamshell containers, and similar types of non-recyclable takeout food containers, plastic and glass nip bottles, and boxed water. So the last time we discussed and made a motion, we said motion to adopt for everything but the nip bottles and the boxed water. And now we're saying motion to adopt for the flushable wipes and the plastic stick ear swabs. So we're reducing our prior motion. That's where we are. Any further discussions on the motion? Otherwise, I will take a vote. Nope. No hands raised. Okay. So let's start with George. So your vote, it's motion to adopt limited to flushable wipes and plastic stick ear swabs.
Aye.
Thank you, Chris. Wait a minute, I got to do this again. Last time we. Aye. Okay, good.
Oh, wait.
Jill?
I do have a question about the wipes, though.
These are the ones containing plastic fibers.
So is that all wet wipes?
It's any ones that are not biodegradable.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I'm a no on anything to pass this, I'm sorry. So no.
Okay, oh, so your vote is no.
Correct.
All right. Okay, Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. Peter Schaefer.
Aye.
Okay. Joe,
No.
okay. Stephen,
No.
okay. Joanna,
No.
okay. And Denise, aye. So we're 4-4. Now what do we do, Libby?
Well, that
Where's the
motion
vice
doesn't
president when we
pass.
need her?
Motion
Oh,
doesn't pass.
wait.
Jill,
If you can show me wet wipes that are biodegradable, I will consider it.
There are, they do
They're
exist. I
not.
looked them up last time. There is a brand that is biodegradable, and it's one of the big brands.
Madam Chair,
Bruce,
Huggies makes a flushable wipe that doesn't contain plastic fibers. It's very readily available.
thank you, Bruce. Okay. Let's do this again, just to make sure. So the motion is,
Okay.
Jill,
I would like to change my vote if I can.
I'm going to revote the whole thing,
Thank you.
just to make sure we're clear, because it's confusing, at least a little bit. So the motion is motion to adopt, limited to G and H. G are flushable wipes that contain plastic, and H is the plastic stick ear swabs. Okay. So in favor of motion to adopt, starting with George.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris?
Aye.
Okay. Peter Schaefer.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Joe?
No.
Joe is a no. Stephen?
No.
Stephen's a no. Jill?
Aye.
Okay. Joanna?
No.
Okay. Denise is an aye. 5-3. That passes. Motion to adopt, limited to items G and H. And Bruce, as we talked about in email, really at the end of the day, this is the Finance Committee's recommendation, and the ultimate people who decide are the voters on June 5th. So it's, so we go from here.
I understand, Madam Chair, and thank you all very much for this. Of course, I'm sorry that the clamshell containers came out, but I can certainly understand the discussion, and I appreciate your allowing this to be discussed. Thank you very much.
Of course, Bruce. Thank you for your time and commitment to this topic. Thank you. Okay. Now we are on to Article 6. Brian, please. General fund
Yeah.
budget transfers.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think Rick will share the screen so I can take you through this.
Thank you.
May I start with 6?
Yes, please, Rick. Okay, so we have 2 transfers this year. We're taking both of them from medical insurance. We'll go in reverse order. The school departments is to salaries. This was a minor miscommunication between Martin and I about needing to include this $65,000 in their salaries. So when we discussed it, I told them we would take care of it at the annual town meeting. The other one is into the retirement account. It's $434,000. A portion of this, about 80,000, is actually interest that, because when we went into the COVID pandemic in the end of 2020 and into 21, the treasurer and I made a decision to not pay the roughly $7.5 million worth of retirement across all the spectrums, and to split it into 2 payments because we were still unsure about the timing of collections and property tax receipts in the general fund. So we did do that. Unfortunately, due to the timing when we received the actual notification during the year, it was, and when we had the salaries approved, there was a change of about $300,000, a little over $350,000 to the actual assessment for fiscal 21, which we need to raise. We actually have the fiscal 22 assessment and have actually done the calculation, so it is correct in the fiscal 22 budget. So we would ask for the favorable motion on these transfers.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions from the Finance Committee? None? May I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. George?
Aye.
Thank you. Joe?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Peter Schaefer?
Aye.
Joanna?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Thank you, Denise. It's unanimous. I can still say it. Thank you. We already did number 7 yesterday. So.
That's correct, Madam Chair. So we're on to Article 8.
Correct. Thank you.
So Article 8 is essentially, with the exception of the fact that during the January budget presentation, we had a different number in relative to the retirement number. That number has been changed. It's actually 5.8 million at the bottom of this. We have included the 375,000 for the Affordable Housing Trust in the town administration line. So all told, we're proposing a budget of $97,248,478. That would be funded through raise and appropriate of $96,173,478 and a transfer for one-time expenses from free cash of $1,075,000. The $1,075,000 is made up of $150,000 to the school and $925,000 in one-time expenses for the town operating budgets.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions from the Finance Committee? Seeing no hands raised, may I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. I'll start with you. George?
Aye.
Thank you. Peter Schaefer?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Joanna?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Denise? Aye. It's unanimous. Motion to adopt. Thank you. So now we're on Article 10, Capital.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the Article 10 is the general fund capital expenditures. There were 2 small changes from the discussions relative to this. Rick, if you would scroll down, I'll take the committee through those. Keep going. In town administration, right there, we have added $750,000 for the town's own costs associated with our groundwater soil investigation relative to PFAS, which we have been starting. So this borrowing authorization would allow us to continue that. You can scroll down just a little bit more, Rick. The first article for Affordable Housing Trust is the $1,625,000, which Bond Council has helped us write the language of costs associated with acquiring land, interest in land, which may include affordable housing restrictions and pay any cost, design, construction, reconstruction, equipping affordable housing. If you would go to the second one, Rick, please. The $6.5 million, which we did indicate we were going to put in and had a lengthy discussion with the FinCom. You will notice that there is no reference in this article to a shared equity program. We had a rather lengthy discussion with Bond Council, and it was Bond Council's opinion that a shared equity program would not fit within the legislative authority for borrowing under Chapter 44. So it has been taken out. I will tell you that Tucker was on the call with Bond Council, so he is aware, and I believe that the trust will be aware. I think they're having a meeting today, that this is not an option and that it's something that we would have to figure out. If it was, they wanted to continue to explore it, we would have to find an alternate funding source that it cannot be borrowed. So all told, $24,121,150, consistent with the FinCom or Capcom recommendations, which we proposed to them. $4,992,254 be transferred from free cash. We would be transferring $107,136 the school asked us to transfer from Article 10 of the 2018 annual town meeting. $50,000 will come from the ambulance reserve fund. $2,704,700 will be raised and appropriated from the fiscal 22 tax levy. And $751,000 is a capital exclusion contingent on not only a successful town meeting, but a ballot vote. And then authorization to borrow $15,515,900. all told equaling the $24,121,150.
Thank you, Brian. Questions? Joe?
Brian, on the $6.5 million for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, where the language to engage in a shared equity program was stricken, so that money, since I didn't absorb the text, that's basically to be used for the acquisition of land, but it's still sort of the same $6.5 million that's of borrowing that's supported by $600,000 that is now in their
Yes, that is
budget.
correct. That's correct.
Okay. So the town is budgeting the $2 million of operating expenses, capital expenses, and debt service for the Affordable Housing Trust, and Affordable Housing Operations. There's $600,000 of which supports $6.5 million of borrowing.
Yes, that is correct. And one of the things that has come up is that it certainly can't be used for the shared equity, but I think that they potentially have identified other resources that it would be able to be used for, which is all included in the language that we have included.
Okay, thank you.
Jill?
I thought that it was 7.5 million. Now that 6.5, I thought that was to actually pay a developer so that we didn't have to go for these light tech tax credits.
So the 7.5 million is Article 24, which is a debt exclusion, which is still on the ballot.
Gotcha. Okay, I want to make sure I gotcha.
So they're two separate and distinct, different.
So
paths that
can
they
you
may take.
tell us again? I asked this one question before. Brian, thanks. Can you just add up all the money for affordable housing this year? Because the paper said it was $10 million.
It's 16 million minus the 600,000. So they potentially would have at their disposal 15.4 million to work on addressing the needs that they've identified.
Yeah, that's what you told me last time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chris?
So I had asked when we were discussing, I think, is 97 the land bank article number?
Yes, it
Correct.
is.
We were asking 97, when we were discussing 97, I had asked if the sponsors of that would pull their support for it if we supported this inclusion here in Article 10. And I don't think we got an answer, and it sort of got pushed off to the discussion here, but I just was curious as to whether anybody had heard an answer on that.
I
Madam
personally,
Chair.
Chris, have not heard an answer to that question. So I couldn't tell you whether they will or they won't.
I haven't heard either, Chris. I can
So
only,
it's 15 in positive recommendations, and then a number of other potential funding bills out there, or warrant articles that did not get positive recommendations.
that could, and on June 5th, they could all get positive votes. That's
Mhm.
correct. Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. And just a general comment, and I had a discussion earlier with Brian about this. So my personal reluctance, and so I'm much more comfortable with the 600,000 supporting the 6.5 million to build buildings and do whatever needs to be done, or to help buy down, all the things that Affordable Housing Trust has already had authorized and had programs in place. I was very uncomfortable with the idea of, well, here's a shared equity program and we don't have any of the details, but let's go ahead and borrow money for it, and let's go ahead and I was very uncomfortable with that, and I'm much happier with where we landed on this. Because I think in general, I think that it is very difficult and I'll go back to David Worth, the town meeting on ATM 2019, when he just said, no bank is going to hand you $20 million without somewhat of a plan behind it. And so the same thing for here. And I'm always more comfortable personally when I see that there's some structure, there's some plan, there's some thinking, the people who voted should vote on it, do vote on it, all that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm using my finance committee chair soapbox here, but that was my observation on this, and I'm much happier with where we landed on this now, and much more comfortable with it personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian, for getting us to here. So, okay, and Libby, of course, as well. Any other comments or questions about Article 10?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, I'll start with you, Joe,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Peter Schaefer.
Aye.
Denise, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. We have, boom, as you can see, Article 15. Thank you, Brian and Rick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Article 15 is the enterprise fund operations. This is consistent with what was presented to you at the same January meeting with one change really. You'll notice what is known as the Nantucket Water Department, and you do not see Wannacomet or Siasconset on here anymore. As I mentioned in a previous meeting relative to the capital funding Article 16, the legislature did approve the merger of the two. So the only change in Article 15 is the merger, the combination of the two water company department or budgets, excuse me, into the Nantucket Water Department budget in the amount of $6,776,651. Other than that, there is no changes. I should point out that the airport again has the CARES Act money, and so in the budget, they have reduced the payroll, which is the easiest way internally for all of us to handle it, by the expected $2.1 million worth of CARES Act. So what's reflected here is what they will actually raise in through user charges at the airport. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has them.
So this will include the $5 million override for our island home. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, it does. So in the body of the motion, you'll see that the remaining, that the $5 million is to be raised on the fiscal tax levy to support Ireland Home is contingent on the passage of the Proposition 2.5 override. And in the funding table at the bottom under Ireland Home, you do see fiscal 22 tax levy and other general revenues of the $5 million. So it is still in there as it was last year, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Any other questions from Finance Committee? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion
Motion to adopt.
and a second.
Second.
Thank you. I'll start with you, Joanna.
Aye.
Thank you. George,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Peter Schaefer,
Aye.
Denise, aye. George, did I get you? I'm sorry. I'm trying to shake it up a little bit so everybody doesn't get complacent because you're all moving around my screen as well. So, okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. And 17, please, Brian and Rick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Article 17 is the enterprise fund budget transfers. They are all airport. As you, most of you are aware, we've discussed this funding strategy previously relative to capital projects. The airport authorizes borrowings and we do bans for projects for them. And for the majority of this is what this will be. And then after retained earnings is certified at the end, at the start of the new fiscal year, at the annual town meeting, they transfer in any retained earnings to pay off those bans, which is what the majority of this is. They are transferring $1 million from retained earnings into their groundwater soil investigation, which, as you're aware, you did recommend the capital article in the amount of $8 million. They're transferring this into that project as well.
Mhm. Thank you. Questions from the Finance Committee? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Jill,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Peter Schaefer,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
We have now Article 68 and Article 3, right, Brian? We have to reopen 3.
Yes, I was going to ask, we can do 68 first if you would like, Madam Chair, and then do I'll ask to reopen Article 3.
No, go ahead and reopen 3 and then we'll do 68 last.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So I would ask the FinCom to consider reopening Article 3. Rick has been a tremendous help in getting us through this process, and I inadvertently was not very clear on what needed to be included in Article 3 versus Article 6. And there are some transfers into the IT budget that are coming from a prior year article that the funds are not needed. So I had inadvertently told him those could go in Article 6 when they really need to be in Article 3. So we would ask for your consideration to reopen the article. We'll put the article up so I can show you the changes and then ask for a new motion on it.
Thank you. May I have a motion to reopen? Thank you, Chris.
Motion to reopen.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Actually, Rick, I need to see everybody so I can thank you. Peter Schaefer,
Yes.
Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Okay, it's reopened. Now we can look at it. Thank you, Rick.
One second, sorry.
Thank you, Rick. So nothing has changed with the DPW or any of the other funds. The only changes are all related to information technologies. We're closing out the comprehensive permitting and the update to GIS digital imaging by transferring it all into professional services and those amounts there listed there, which will close out those articles. And all is going to be used to fund additional licenses for some of the new software that we have actually acquired in through the IT budget. So we would ask that you would reconsider the motion and adopt a favorable motion on Article 3 with those changes.
I have a motion, or is there any discussion?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Joe.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. I'll start with you, Joanna,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Jill, Peter,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Denise, aye. It's unanimous. Motion to adopt.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Article 68 is a citizens warrant article to give a piece of land back to the school. It's actually a select board purview. But my understanding is that, sorry, bear with me as I flip to it in my little book. It's a real estate transfer, land from roadway roundabout purposes to school committee control, sponsored by Mr. McGrady, to see if the town will vote to transfer the care, custody, management, and control of the following parcels of land from the following boards for the purposes for which they are held from the board of, well, it should have been from the select board back to the school committee for the purposes as follows. So it was a parcel of 10 Surfside Road, which is currently controlled by the town, to be returned to the school committee to be held for school purposes. And I always get the letters wrong, the NP and EDC has discussed this at their meeting and sent us a letter, which I forwarded to all of you, and they have recommended a negative motion on this, or they're not in favor of this article, let's put it that way. I have that paperwork here too, because you know, I have a big binder. Article 68, which addresses the transfer of custody and control of the land from the select board to the school committee, could have negative impacts on future intersection improvement that has been a topic of discussion since the Mid-Island Area Plan in 2003. Preliminary design of this project was initiated and it was listed as priority number 6 out of 33 projects identified in the 2020-2040 Long-Range Transportation Plan. Further advancement of this article could have a negative impact on a real estate transaction that was authored by Article 99 of the 2020 ATM, which has since commenced. So that was from Mr. Lowell to myself, and then I forwarded that to all of you. So Libby, I'm going to ask if this has come up in select board in discussions at all up until now, this article?
No, I was not aware that you were all seeking feedback from them. What I would say though is I doubt they would be in favor.
Chris?
Madam Chair, do you have town council's notes on this one? I thought they had said the town meeting couldn't do this. I thought John Giorgio had, am I recollecting that incorrectly? That it was purely the select board's purview at this point?
I think it's purely the select board's purview. That's why we were waiting to see what the select board had to say, but let me just check.
Yeah, but I thought it was less that, we would get the select board's input and they would make the motion, or rather that it was their discretion whether to do this at any time or not. But maybe I misunderstood.
Town meeting does not have the authority to subject a traffic regulation to town meeting approval. It's a non-binding directive. That's the town council.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Is that the other one?
It's 67, I'm sorry, prohibiting roundabouts near schools. Sorry, wait.
This
68, okay. Nope, nope, wait a minute. I'll tell you what, the old numbering sequence.
Madam Chair, I can read it for you.
Thank you, Brian. That would be helpful.
For the article, transfer the custody of the parcels from select board to school committee, approved as to form. By statute, this requires a 2/3 vote of town meeting, and the select board must vote that it no longer requires the parcel for presently held purposes. It's a comment from town council.
All right, so I misunderstood the part about approval as to form, I guess.
So even if there's a town meeting vote, it still requires a vote of the board.
Okay, in which case, I don't think there's a FinCom. Well, we have to make a motion on every article, but I don't see that there's a sensible FinCom motion to be, oh, I don't want to say sensible. I don't understand what the FinCom motion would be here. It's going to be Joe's favorite, take no action, because he knows how much Chris likes it.
Exactly. Exactly.
See it coming. I could
This is
see
a clear
Joe.
take no action.
To be clear, I think they all should be take no action. It's negative ones that I don't like. I'm not misunderstood.
I
And
know,
what I
but
really don't like is switching one from something from not to take no action, but another time.
Chris, I know that about you, but I just sort of like winding you up each meeting about this because it's just something I
Well,
do.
you're the only one that wants to hear it, I'm sure.
Oh, well.
It's a very entertaining conversation. I think,
Okay, so my observation is Joe is about to make a motion.
I move Article 68, take no action.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, Joanna. Any further discussion on the motion? No? Okay, in which case I'll start with Jill.
Aye. Or you want me to do second? Did you get second?
Yeah, Joanna seconded it.
Oh, sorry. Aye.
Thank you, Jill. Joanna?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Denise, I take no action is unanimous. Okay. Article or item number 8 on the agenda. Brian, this is
Sure.
you.
Madam Chair, these are actually not fiscal 21 annual town meeting requests. These are for fiscal 21 actual operating year. The
Okay.
first is a request to increase the revolving fund limit for the airport fuel revolver. We'd originally, a little while back, raised it from the 2 million to the 3.5 million. The select board and FinCom did agree. Fuel prices are still rising, and the airport is a little bit concerned that based on their analysis that they're going to be very close to the $3.5 million fuel revolver cap by June 30th, and June is one of their busiest months for purchasing fuel. So they have asked us to ask FinCom and the select board, which I will be going before the select board on April 7th, to ask for their approval to raise the cap to 4 million. So to increase this by another 500,000.
Okay.
Which is allowed under the statute, provided FinCom and select board both approve it.
Okay. Any questions from FinCom? No? May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Joanna. May I have a second? Thank you, George. Okay, I'll start with Jill.
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Denise, I. It's unanimous.
The second request, Madam Chair, is to increase the revolving fund limit for fiscal 21 for the municipal aggregation operational adder. I've talked to the energy coordinator and they've been getting more solar rebate requests, and she asked if we could consider raising this prior to the end of the year to be consistent with what you've recommended for next year, to ensure that she has the flexibility to potentially meet those requests this year. So we would ask for an increase of $50,000 into this, which would bring that total to $150,000, which would be consistent with the recommendation from town administration for next year.
Questions for Brian? No questions? Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Joanna?
Aye.
Thank you. George,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Denise, I. It's unanimous. Now that I can say unanimous, I want to keep saying it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Rick. According to my little scorecard, that is 112 out of 112 articles. So we get to count like 114 out of 112 when we do them a couple times. So yeah, it's good. Okay. Obviously, we're not having a meeting on Thursday and we're not having a meeting tomorrow. And again, I explained the confusion about tomorrow's meeting, thanks to me. Not wanting to meet on April 1st, just meaning I didn't want to meet 3 days this week because I felt we could get through everything today. And we did. Thank you very much. Our meeting on Monday is with the select board and the planning board, so we can discuss together. If there's any questions, if they have any questions for us as to why we made the motions we made. And that way everybody can participate versus just me representing us like I've done in prior years. So with that, it's 5:22. And I mean, thank you so much for all your hard work.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guess
Well
what
done,
we need, all of
everybody.
Your hard work.
Guess
Yeah.
what we need,
Thanks to
folks?
Brian, Libby, and everyone.
Yes, everybody. Thank you.
Excellent.
And navigating on Zoom.
I know, especially when we had 150 people on the one. So it was like like one of those circular where it's scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So yeah, good. Okay, thank you, everyone. And guess what I need?
A motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Joanna. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Joanna,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Jill, Denise, I. Again, Brian, Rick, Libby, thank you for getting us here.
Denise,
job.
thank
And good
you.
job,
Thank
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Emails to wade through this year, Denise, than any year that I've been on the committee. So a lot of extra communication on your part behind the scenes.
Agreed.
Thank you. Well, I mean,
Well done.
the better
Madam Chair.
informed we are, the better we do. So yeah, it's good.
Well, I personally just really appreciate the ability to really involve the public. And I feel like we all ended up having some good discussions, and we got to save some good discussions because we got so much public comment. So it was excellent.
It's fun to invite the public into our bedrooms and Joe's.
Into Joe's closet. But I think, I'm sorry, but the stars so far this year were really Peter McEachern's and Brian's cats. I mean,
Yes.
really, we have to, if we have to really pick the stars of this year's.
I'm going to get a donkey next year.
Okay.
Well, Denise, I want to know, do you really have dogs, or is it just a sound effect in the background? We've never
Yeah,
seen them.
It's exactly, well, I mean, they're both like laying here sleeping, so I'm not gonna wake them up.
It up machine, you just get the dogs going
Yeah,
and
that's what I do when oh, public comment, dogs, 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 dogs.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, I will never be that clever, I can tell you. So, yeah, good, everyone. So
Well done, everyone.
have a good
I'm
evening.
sorry, but I think George really took the sound effects away from Denise's dogs.
He did.
That was,
He did.
that was literally riveting, George.
George, we saw an article that says that's how you get out of Zoom meetings. You just are the most annoying person on and they tell you go away.
I don't
So
know how it happens, but I haven't investigated either.
we thought it was a strategy, George, to get earlier out of FinCom, but
I'm hoping I can get my name spelled correctly next time.
oh yeah, you're Harrington instead of Harrington.
worry about everything. This is all.
Step by step, George. Let's not rush it. So
Plenty of time. Plenty
All
of
right.
time.
Good night,
Bye,
everybody.
Bye,
take
everybody.
care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.